I left my marriage because I found out my wife was 8 weeks pregnant with her affair partner's baby. I haven't talked to my ex-wife for more than 3 years until she reached out to me recently, asking to talk. We had a 1-hour phone call, and it made me realize that our sad relationship had come to a definite end. This is my story. I discovered this forum a few weeks ago and have been reading a lot. It's been sad to see so many broken hearts sharing their stories. It's also brought me some comfort knowing I'm not alone in this. I haven't posted before because I felt like I couldn't offer much advice when my own marriage failed so badly. But after talking to my ex last week, I realized that our stories have a lot in common, like checking off a series of boxes. That's why I wanted to share. We met in Tennessee when I was 22 and she was 27. She was finishing nursing school, and I was finishing my military service. We both worked delivering pizzas for extra money. We clicked and became friends, and after a memorable party, we became more than friends. She actually made the first move, but I liked her too, so I was happy to be with her. After leaving the military, I took my then-girlfriend out for a fancy dinner and proposed to her. I was head over heels in love with her at that point. Our first year of marriage was wonderful. We got along great with each other's families, and we did almost everything together. But things changed in our second year. I was working full-time and going to school in the evenings for a civil engineering degree. I tried to make our time together special and romantic, but there just wasn't as much time for us. I could sense her pulling away and losing interest, so I decided to quit school. I thought my marriage was more important, and I figured I could go back to school later. However, things didn't get better. I noticed something about her behavior. She was like a child who quickly gets tired of her toys and moves on to something new. I tried to keep her engaged and make things interesting with gifts, trips, and romantic gestures, but it felt like I was trying to save a sinking ship all by myself. She didn't offer much help or encouragement, and it's exhausting to try to save a relationship alone. Then she started cheating, a story many of you probably know too well. She checked all the boxes, being secretive with her phone and laptop, spending more time away from home, and completely withdrawing from intimacy. Her affection toward me disappeared, and even my attempts at hugs and kisses were met with coldness. I've read similar stories here many times. It's like cheaters don't want to be affectionate with their spouse while they're cheating with someone else. I knew what was happening and was determined to catch her. We lived in a state where fault mattered in divorce, but she covered her tracks well. I couldn't prove anything. I think she noticed I was pulling away emotionally. All my efforts to show affection or even talk to her stopped. Then she tearfully admitted to having an inappropriate relationship with a coworker. She swore it wasn't physical. She made a lot of promises and apologies, and she wanted to work on our marriage, suggesting counseling. I wanted to believe her, even though deep down, I suspected she wasn't telling me everything and was shifting the blame. My heart wanted to trust her, even if my mind had doubts. We tried marriage counseling for a few weeks, but it seemed to make her uncomfortable when the counselor asked probing questions about her emotional affair. I suspected, as did the counselor, that there was more to it than she was admitting. She stopped counseling after 4 sessions, but things seemed better between us. It felt like she was back to her old self, and I was happy. I decided to let go of my suspicions and focus on rebuilding our relationship. This period of improvement lasted about 6 months until the same patterns started again. She began showing the same signs of cheating as before. I confronted her twice, but she brushed it off as stress or immaturity, which she often blamed for issues due to our age gap. Intimacy between us stopped, and she lost interest in me and our relationship. Then one day I came home to find her crying on our bed. I asked her to talk to me, and she revealed that she was pregnant. Initially I felt joy, but then I remembered how long it had been since we were intimate. I could see the truth in her face. When I asked how far along she was, she said 8 weeks. It had been over 4 months since we were last intimate, which made me question the paternity of the baby. I walked out of the room, and she followed me. As we talked, I couldn't help but notice how similar her excuses were to what I've read from other people's experiences on this forum. Cheaters often say it was just a one-time mistake, it didn't mean anything, and they always loved their partner. But of all the lies, that last one hurts the most. I told her I needed time and left the house, planning to return in an hour to hear her out. I was shaking with anger, and staying would have probably led to a bad situation. I drove to an empty parking lot and cried for that whole hour. Something inside me broke, and I felt like my heart turned to ice. When I came back home, I was cold and distant. I didn't need to pretend to be emotionless. I had become numb. She tried to convince me that we could work through it. She mentioned how happy I was when she first told me about the pregnancy, before I realized the timing didn't add up. She talked about starting a family and how our child would need a father, but none of her words could melt the ice that had formed around my heart. For about 20 minutes I sat there silently, staring at her without any emotion. Eventually she asked me to say something. I told her that she's asking for reconciliation, but most of what she's saying is a lie. I said if she wants us to even consider fixing things, she needs to start by being honest with me. That's when she finally told me the truth. The same truth I later found out from someone else, that it had been the same affair all along, even from the previous year. It was always physical between them. She admitted she never loved him, she loved me. He wasn't interested in anything beyond a physical relationship with her. He even pressured her to end the pregnancy, but she didn't want to. She wanted a family, and she wanted it with me. I made it clear to her that our marriage was already over. It had been over for a year and a half, but I was just finding out about it then. I told her to pack what she needed for 3 days and leave the house. I said we would talk about what happens next in 3 days. She didn't want to leave and kept trying to talk to me. Normally her tears would have made me reconsider, but that night, I felt nothing. The love in me had died. I went to the guest bedroom and locked the door. The next day, I talked to several lawyers and hired one. The paternity issue was enough for a divorce based on her fault. I didn't want to wait long, so we discussed a quicker, uncontested mediation. When I returned home, she tried to be intimate with me. I was shocked and disgusted and made it clear that it would never happen again. We agreed on the terms for our divorce. Our biggest asset was the house, and most of our debt was her student loan. I gave up my share of the house so she could sell it. She decided to keep the baby, and I wanted her to have that money. I just wanted to move on and be free. In the end, I only kept my Jeep, clothes, some tools, firearms, and military items, things that were mine before we got married. Everything else in that house, everything she touched, felt tainted to me. I wanted nothing more from that marriage except to leave it behind. The divorce was finalized after 13 months. I only saw her twice during the mediation, and we hardly spoke. She was heavily pregnant at that time, which I thought would be difficult for me to see, but I felt nothing for her, no love, no hate, just emptiness. She was like a stranger to me. I moved to Florida and took a job as a civil servant, which doesn't pay much but also doesn't demand much from me. I live a simple life now. I bought a small house by the Gulf Coast and fixed it up. I also got a boat and spend most weekends fishing. I don't have many friends and I haven't dated much. I struggle with trust issues and find it hard to enjoy being around people, especially women I'm attracted to. I'm 27 years old, in good shape, and some women find me attractive. But I'm not ready for an intimate relationship. I don't think I can trust someone to that extent for a long time. I've changed a lot from who I used to be. Now my love is mainly for my dog, Stormy. She's my companion everywhere I go. I wouldn't say I'm happy. I still feel upset when something reminds me of my ex and everything I went through. Sometimes I feel a deep sense of loss, even though I know I didn't really lose anything because I didn't have much to begin with. But these feelings are hard to shake. It's great that your job allows you to work alone outdoors and bring your dog with you. Finding peace is a big step, even if happiness hasn't fully come yet. Last week, my past came back unexpectedly. She called me out of the blue, and though I hadn't hidden my contact information, I was surprised she reached out. We talked for an hour. Initially, it seemed friendly, like she just wanted to catch up. But I realized she was testing the waters for a possible reconnection. She had a baby girl 2 years ago, and there was never any doubt about the paternity. The guy involved wasn't around much for his daughter and even caused some legal issues regarding support. She sounded lonely and unhappy. I told her I was sorry for her unhappiness, but I made it clear it wasn't my responsibility. I reminded her that she broke my heart, and it still hurts. I said I couldn't love her or anyone else and wanted no part in her life. I told her she made all the decisions for all of us, herself, me, and her daughter. She left me with no choice but to walk away. I asked her not to contact me again. It's a common thread in all our stories here. Selfish decisions by cheaters harm multiple lives, including those of innocent people like unborn children. If there's one thing I wish cheaters understood before they act selfishly, it's the ripple effect of their actions on everyone around them, including their affair partner. But if they're already selfish enough to cheat, they might not care about the consequences. Update: I shared my story here a few weeks ago. In the 3 years since my divorce, I've built a new life, but it's been a lonely one, lacking in friendships and trust. After interacting with many of you, I realized I shouldn't give my ex so much power over my life. I thought I was living on my own terms, but I wasn't. By staying closed off and mistrustful, I was still paying an emotional debt I didn't owe. When I left my failed marriage, I said I took nothing with me, but that wasn't entirely true. I kept my wedding ring in a cigar box with a few other items. I didn't attach much emotion to it, but looking back, I wonder if its presence in my home drained any positive energy I was trying to build. The other day, I took my dog Stormy fishing for gag grouper in the Gulf. It was the last day of the season on December 31st. I decided to bring my wedding ring with me on a whim. I threw it into the Gulf of Mexico, and now it's at the bottom of Swanee Sound, about 15 miles west of Long Cabbage Key. When the ring sank into the calm blue-green water, I felt a huge weight lift off me. It was like the ring carried all my emotional baggage and let it go deep into the ocean floor, about 70 feet down. You guys were right. Just surviving infidelity and divorce isn't enough. It's time to start living again. I've started dating a local girl I met casually, and we had a blast at a party together last night. I want to thank everyone here. Your comments and messages made me see things I didn't even realize about myself. To those new to this journey, listen to the advice here. These people know what you're going through. Don't spend too long grieving for what you think you lost. That sadness is a burden you don't need to carry for those who betrayed you. It's a moment of freedom when you realize you can let go and start living again. Update: I've spent the past 3 years avoiding dating or relationships. Recently, I decided to open myself up to love again and started seeing a girl who's a year younger than me. She's never been married. Things were going well, and we were getting serious, having conversations about our relationship. During one of these talks, she surprised me with something. She said she's interested in polyamory relationships and can't be satisfied with just one partner. I admit I needed her to explain that concept to me. I'm not very familiar with it, or I'm just old-fashioned. She explained that in a polyamory setup, we could have multiple partners for physical connections but always come back to each other for emotional closeness. I thanked her for being honest about her feelings. It's commendable that she was upfront about her preferences. Secrecy in such matters can lead to problems. I expressed my attraction to her, enjoyed our time together, and was open to being one of her partners in the short term. However, for a long-term relationship, we both agreed it would be better to explore other options. She understood, although she was sorry because she liked me too. It was a surreal conversation for me, making me wonder if I'm outdated in my views. Are there women who still value faithfulness, or is that concept old-fashioned? My wife cheated on me, and my next girlfriend suggested a double date with her friend and another guy, which didn't sit well with me. Update 3. Today marks an anniversary for me, not of marriage but of finalizing my divorce 3 years ago. I shared my story on this sub last year. You can find it on my profile or even on YouTube, surprisingly. In summary, my ex-wife had an affair that resulted in her getting pregnant with her affair partner's daughter. When the secret couldn't stay hidden anymore, she told me that the baby might be mine, and we could raise her together. She also said sorry and promised it wouldn't happen again. I had to make a decision, and today marks 3 years since I made it. I'm okay. Honestly, I don't think about her much anymore. I'm not sad or happy, just sort of okay these days. I'm fine, I guess. It's hard to explain it any other way. But here's what I'm struggling with. Why does everyone think I'm not okay? My sister and her friend visited me in Florida before they started college at the University of Memphis. I'm really proud of her. They stayed with me for 2 days before heading to Tampa. During their visit, we had a talk, and my sister said she was worried about me. She thinks I haven't gotten over what happened. She said I seem different now, almost unrecognizable. I'm still me, I told her. But she believes I'm unhappy, even though I'm not. I'm just fine, even if she doesn't see it. They even set up a dating app on my phone and talked to 2 women for me. Then they told me about it and insisted I keep talking to them. After they left, I deleted everything and lied to my sister about it. I feel bad about it, but I don't want her to worry. I want her to know I'm okay. My boss and his wife are close friends of mine. She thinks it's not good for me to be alone all the time and that I'd be a good catch. She's tried to set me up with friends, but I'm just not interested. So I ended up telling her I'm seeing someone. I hate lying about it, and I appreciate their concern, but honestly, I'm okay. I've had 2 short relationships and 1 fling since my divorce. The fling ended badly because the girl turned out to be married, which made me really angry. One relationship didn't work out because we just weren't a good match. The other one faded away because I wasn't really into it. I'm just not comfortable being close to people in that way. Maybe I just don't have much to give to a relationship. I've changed from how I used to be. I used to be outgoing and social, but not anymore. Is it bad that I've changed? I can still form emotional bonds. I love my sister and my dog. My dog is amazing. She's my best friend, fishing buddy, and partner in crime. But in social situations now, I feel really uncomfortable and awkward, and I just want to leave. Is that normal? I don't know. I feel most at ease on the boat, far out in the Gulf where there's no land in sight, under a big open sky with nobody around for miles. I'm not emotionless. I just don't show my emotions much. I don't really get angry or sad or happy. I feel like I'm doing fine all the time. Maybe that's quite different from how I used to be, but is that bad? There are a lot of people on this subreddit who have survived infidelity. How are you doing? Are you healed? Do people tell you that you're not? How would you even know? Betrayal changes us. Who you were before won't be who you are after. That doesn't seem hard to understand, does it? The people asking are worried about us, I know, and we appreciate that, but really, we're just fine. Update 4. My divorce was finalized 3 years ago today. I don't think about it much anymore. I loved my wife, she was the love of my life. I say that now almost automatically. Sometimes I don't even remember how it felt. Time changes things. I can't even remember what she looked like. She was supposed to be the most important person in the world, and now it's been just 41 months since I last saw her, and sometimes I can't even remember her face. The night she told me her terrible secret, that she had been having an affair and was pregnant by him. I remember that clearly. She had rejected all affection from me for months. I shouldn't have been surprised, I guess. The signs were there. I knew, but I didn't want to admit it. I've posted on Reddit about the events leading up to that night and the aftermath before. I don't think about it much anymore and hardly talk about it, but tonight marks the 3-year milestone. I guess I'm going through it all over again, but it doesn't make me sad or anything. Maybe I'd be better off if it did. I've been pretty unemotional since the night of D-Day. It was like everything went quiet. All the voices and sounds became muffled in my head to a low buzz. At the same time, everything became crystal clear to me. The future, the present, the past. They all seemed like a series of events leading to an inevitable end. The wife I loved was gone, the life I dreamed of was lost, it never really existed. It was all done and over with, and now it was just a waiting game for the end of the process. I didn't even yell at her. I wasn't even angry. I was just numb. I just told her it was over and that I was filing for divorce. 2 weeks later I was gone. Even now, thinking back on it, I don't feel angry. No pain, no heartache, no longing, just nothing. The lesson I've learned from all of this is that the world is always changing. Everything passes, even the things that seem so important at the time are only temporary. Just let them go. Love people, everything passes by us like a train in the night, with us for a short time, then fading into the distance. Don't hold on to what's been lost. Acknowledge that it's gone and let it go. Clinging to what's gone is pointless, and it only causes more pain. Update 5. Now I have a new life in a new state in the USA, and I feel like I'm doing okay. But my family and friends keep telling me that I might need help because I'm so different from the person I used to be. There's some truth to that. I know it. I used to be happier and more outgoing. Now I just prefer the company of my dog. I don't make new friends, haven't dated much, and mostly keep to myself. But I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me. I went through a really tough time, yes, but it's understandable that the way I am now might be very different from how I was before, right? My sister visited me a few months ago, and after 3 days, she was practically begging me to get help. So I started seeing a counselor. Some of the advice the counselor has given me seems helpful, but the whole process feels like it's going deeper and deeper into something. One of the first things the counselor asked me was when was the last time I felt truly happy or sad. I had to think about it and realized it had been a long time. The last time I really felt any strong emotion was the night my marriage ended. Since then, I'd just been okay. After talking about it for a few sessions, the counselor said I might have PTSD with a flat effect and is suggesting I see a psychiatrist and a neurologist. She's also talking about medications that can affect the mind, and from what I've read online, they can have some unpleasant side effects and can be quite expensive. I'm starting to worry this is getting too much. She's mentioning doctors, hospitals, strong medicines, and now I'm thinking, maybe it's alright to just feel alright. I'm thinking about finding a different therapist or maybe just letting this all go. Any suggestions would be helpful.